pump too, right?
Fred Garcia has worked here for 6 years. Right now, almost 6,000 people work as service station attendants in Oregon.
There'd be thousands of jobs that would be lost. I mean, it does have some good to it where the self-service, you know, because we get swamped out there and, you know, you have to wait. Well, if you had a couple of designated pumps that were self-service, people could do that.
The new bill wouldn't get rid of all gas pump attendants. It would allow for 25% of any gas station's pumps to be self-serve. Fred thinks self-serve may not equal shorter wait times if you're paying with cash.
You know, I think that it'd be kind of crazy at first. You'd have to come in here to pay. It's kind of a hassle, but it does have a good idea, but I just don't like the idea of losing jobs.
Hi, how you doing?
Garcia's co-worker, Chris Arian, is even more against the bill.
I'm very against it because it could potentially cause many jobs of like gas pump attendants to become unemployed.
If only 25% of attendants lost their jobs, more than 2,300 people would be unemployed. A regional economist says in the grand scheme of unemployment rates, that number is tiny, yet significant to the individuals. Individuals like Fred, who can't imagine losing his job.
I don't know. I'd probably have to look for something else, you know, other than pumping gas, because I can't live on Social Security.
How many times have you seen skid marks on the road and thought nothing of it? Well, a woman I talked to today said she did think something of it, and her stopping to investigate ended up saving a life.
You could see as plain as day, his truck has been over, something went over there.
It all started when Lori Bowers was driving from Happy Camp to Cave Junction. As she got close to the Oregon border,
I come upon some marks over the road, and at first I didn't really think anything, and I drove down the road and I thought, well, maybe I better go back and check it.
And that's exactly what she did. She turned her car around on Grayback Road to investigate the tire marks.
I got off the road and looked over the hill, and there was the Jeep, and I yelled, you know, is anybody in there?
That's when the 23-year-old man trapped in his car yelled back. He was about 50 feet down a hill, out of sight from the road.
First, I this vehicle over the hill.
Lori called 911 and waited with the victim. Illinois Valley Fire got her call just after 10 yesterday, but the victim said he'd been there since 2 in the morning.
He said to me, I thought I was going to die in my car.
Temperatures were freezing overnight, and the victim wasn't able to leave his car due to a severely fractured leg. In fact, his car was being held up by a single tree. One wrong move, and Illinois Valley Fire says he could have fallen another 1,000 feet.
Now, Lori is the real hero of this story because she went the extra step to actually stop and investigate because you couldn't see the vehicle from the road.
Lori says it was instinct that made her turn her car around. But sometimes just being observant can go a long way.
You know, be aware of what's going on, or, you know, pay attention more. A few cars passed by those marks, and actually somebody should have seen it besides me.
In Happy Camp, Mari Nelson, Newswatch 12.
Reunited with her electronic scooter tonight after her act of kindness almost meant she might never see it again. Thanks for joining us. I'm Brian Ward.
And I'm Ashley Hall. The Rogue River woman lent that electric mobility scooter to a friend in need, and it was stolen from him. Newswatch 12's Mari Nelson spoke with that woman who says she has a message for the thief.
Catherine Hunt was the woman who owned that scooter. She told me she lent it to her church pastor when he had an injury. The church pastor told me he left the scooter right here on his front porch overnight. But in the morning, it was gone.
We've never had any problem in the past. We've been the pastors there for 4.5 years and never had any problem with, having anything taken off our porch.
He just called and said, well, he appreciated having the loan of the chair, but unfortunately it had been stolen. That rather shocked me because I couldn't quite imagine how it could have been stolen.
That was on February 26. Nearly 2 weeks later, on March 11th, police arrested suspect Stephen Staker. Rogue River Police Department says Staker fled the scene when an officer attempted a traffic stop on March 8th. 3 days later, they located him and found the scooter in his possession. Catherine is relieved it's been found. She says the scooter is her only mode of transportation.
I do need the scooter to get around. even if I just go from here to the community center.
So I asked Catherine why she lent her only mode of transportation to her pastor.
Because he needed it. Nobody else had one to loan him. Just the natural thing to do.
The pastor says he is no stranger to Staker.
The man who stole it has actually been the recipient of some of our church ministry. We run a food bank off the church property. In fact, it's right across the front yard from our house.
And Catherine has a message for Staker.
That I hope the young man who has been indicted for this crime will learn a good lesson from this and learn to be a little more honest.
Now, Catherine is just excited to be able to get out and about again.
Don't rush me.
In Rogue River, Mari Nelson, Newswatch 12.
Well, Brian, I'm here in a Shady Cove backyard where the river water is creeping up further and further into the backyard. And the people that live here told me that the water usually doesn't reach those trees you see behind me. But for now, they're just inside keeping watch.
Yeah, this happened in the last 24 to 48 hours.
Kim Thurman has lived in Shady Cove for the last 10 years and says she's never seen the Rogue River this high.
It's come up probably, what, 20, it's about 20 feet out? Yeah, it's about 20 feet out usually is where the river line is. It's up quite a bit. The fact that that bench is out in the middle of the water, that gives you an idea of how far out you can usually walk.
Although she's not worried about her home, she says some of her neighbors are concerned.
And we're keeping a really close eye on it.
Susan and Cliff Pemberton have lived here in Shady Cove for 4 years. The Rogue River is flooding their backyard.
There's a lot more water. It's rushing by a lot faster. Those willow trees down there are usually not in the water. A lot of debris in the river, everything from chairs to big logs.
Susan says the water has risen significantly since yesterday. They're prepared to take action if the flooding gets worse.
We'll be ready to leave if it gets that high.
But for now, the water is about 70 feet away from their house.
Probably going to move our swing back up this way.
From up on another neighbor's balcony, right across the river from the Pembertons, you can see just how close the water is to the backyards.
This is the furthest I've seen.
We are just keeping watch and really being careful.
There's a flood warning in effect just downstream from where I'm standing in Eagle Point, and that will go until tomorrow morning. For the latest and most up-to-date flood warnings, you can head to our website, kdrv.com. Live in Shady Cove, Mari Nelson, Newswatch 12. That's right, Brian. So I'm at the airport right now, and it is raining, not snowing anymore. But as you can see behind me, there is a lot of snow and slush out on that road in front of the airport. Now, there are people that are inside with no other option but to spend the night in the airport tonight.
It's going to be a long night in Medford's airport. For some, it's already been a long day.
I guess 4:30, the intercom came on and said, hope all the flights are canceled, and you heard a big moan from everyone and a mad dash to the ticket counters.
Car rental companies ran out of cars.
All the people who were trying to leave rented their car again because they couldn't leave, and all the people who were supposed to be returning the cars didn't, and so yeah, you're kind of just stuck here because you can't really rent anything. And
forcing some to spend the night in the airport, like Verna Holmes.
My plans tonight are to sit here, hopefully get something delivered, and be patient. That's it. Just stay here in the airport.
Now, her flight isn't until 10:30 tomorrow morning, but she's hoping for an earlier one.
I want to be one of the first people to get up in line and say, here's my ticket. Do we have anything earlier?
Paige is stranded too, but looking for other options to get out.
Maybe trying to catch a bus down to Sacramento so I can get out tomorrow, because all the flights out of Medford tomorrow are already booked.
She was told the next available flight was Thursday.
Fingers crossed.
If these road conditions behind me are any indication of what the runway looks like, tomorrow could also be a rough day for travelers. Live in Medford, Mari Nelson, Newswatch 12. Imagine taking the time out of your day to come down to the grocery store, pick out your items, but when you get to the cash register to pay, you're told the internet is down and they can't take credit card transactions and you have no cash. Now you have to put your groceries back and come here another day.
It's a scenario Martin's Food Center owner in Merle says he's too familiar with.
We've gone days where we could not accept credit cards for a whole day's business.
It used to happen about once every month or two.
The credit card business now is 70 to 80% of our sales. So when we're down for a day like that, it just kills us. It's hard to say exactly how the revenue has affected us, but it's definitely makes a big difference. We could lose $1,000 or $2,000 a day in sales.
He's dealt with this for years, but within the last few months, things changed. And I talked with a man who helped move that bill along.
Klamath County owned the infrastructure through foreclosure and was transferring that property, that infrastructure, to the city of Merrill.
Now businesses like Martin's have access to FireServe, a high-speed broadband internet service.
Since FireServe has taken over, we haven't had a single problem.
Not even once has this credit card machine lost internet service since.
And it's a good time to be in Merrill.
Martin says that now customers can rest assured when they come down to get some groceries that they'll be able to check out with a credit card. In Merle, Mari Nelson, Newswatch 12.